Kevin Bowen here. Don't forget to listen to The Fan now on 93.5 or 107.5 FM, and check out our latest coverage online at 1075thefan.com.
Ugly, U-G-L-Y, what's the, I don't...
You ain't got no alibi, you're ugly? Yeah, you're ugly?
Boy, Chris Presley bringing it, unlike the Colts yesterday. That was good. Good work there to start this first regular season Kevin's Corner recap. I am excited to recap an actual football game.
Yeah.
And I would say 99.9% of the audience, I don't know, there's probably one Seahawks fan out there. They probably aren't very excited to recap yesterday. But nonetheless, you have downloaded it, you have decided to listen, and so we will give you our honest assessment of what happened yesterday. 28-16, the Colts lose yet another Week 1 game. That is now 8 in a row, and I believe 12 of 13, which is kind of wild, too. And that's like final Peyton years here in Indianapolis. I'm Kevin Bowen. He's Chris Presley. First off, thank you to everybody that came out to Beers with Bowen. Great turnout. I know the parking situation with the concert over at Lucas Oil Stadium with Guns N' Roses wasn't ideal, but really appreciate everyone that showed up, and awesome grand prize that we gave away. So thank you to Bullseye Event Center and Bullseye Event Group for that, and everybody else in the chat. You know, I know we had a pretty good turnout virtually for our YouTubers out there, so always love doing that. And I know, Chris, that was your first time doing it in person, and it's just fun to get back out there and see people's faces, meet people, and have a beer and talk some ball.
It is. It was, like you said, it's different. We were doing a lot of live streams during the pandemic. So luckily our digital team was able to still have us able to do a live stream, but then also be in person. So a little bit different, but great job for them. So many people behind the scenes that make that work. And then obviously the fans for coming out and listening was great.
Yeah. Hopefully we can do that again here. I know we've done one at times either during a bye week or, right during the playoffs or something like that. And hopefully we can do that again here in the next couple of months. As always, what I liked, what I didn't like, we'll get into later on in the podcast. Good amount of Twitter questions. Let's just start overall, big picture. Chris Presley from Sunday's loss in the season opener. Halftime, I go in there. Into the press box, bathroom to pee. As I'm exiting the press box, I see a rather high-ranking official in the Colts organization, and behind, actually, I don't even know if he was wearing a mask. Who knows? Anyways, that was shit. Was the direct quote from this person. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, that probably sums it up about as succinctly and accurately as I could. And I think if I would have saw that person after the game as well, that 3-word phrase would have
been a little louder.
Well, yeah, just nice little, 4 letters, 3 letters, 4 letters, boom. That was shit, man. I thought the Seahawks would win, but if you're going to show me how Carson Wentz played, if you're going to show me how Rocky Sean played, I wouldn't have thought that. I wouldn't have thought, frankly, that the Colts got handled for the better part of 60 minutes, particularly in the trenches. And with how this team's built and everything that went into Sunday and the stress from the owner on that as well, there's a level of disappointment right now from the fan base that I think is very acceptable. We will try, and we will do that, hopefully on this podcast, to separate the big picture implications from this. I mean, we know it's a long season. Totally get that. But at the same time, you can be extremely disappointed with how your football team played yesterday, and I think you should be.
Yeah, it's one of those, you get amped up. It's like, football Sunday, let's go. And then like you said, you'd mentioned, probably going to lose. And I think most of the fan base thought, Seattle's a Super Bowl contending team. It's going to be a tough win. But that first drive, you manipulate them down the field, take all this time off the clock. You're like, okay, is this how it's going to be? Nice. And then we settle for 3. And so you kind of get your hopes up. But like you said, we thought we were going to lose. We did lose, but you still get your hopes up game 1.
Yeah, and especially I think when you haven't had a lot of home Week 1 games. Obviously, fans, full capacity back inside of that building. And then, like I was saying earlier, I mean, Jim Irsay, he didn't mess around, and rightfully so. His public comments or I guess private comments too. I mean, he tells the team the eve of training camp, that pisses me off, losing these openers. Text Darius Leonard at hours of the morning that, I don't know, Kevin Bowen might have sent a "you up" text a time or two back in the day, and frequently they didn't come back with many answers. I don't know if Darius responded to old Jimmy from the Colts there, but certainly he didn't respond on Sunday, and how Irsay wanted to. And then Irsay shows up to practice last week. The owner doesn't come to a lot of practices. When he comes,
yeah,
boy, that he's going to say something afterwards. So, one thing that also stood out to me, Chris, about yesterday is like, you ask Frank Reich. Actually, you ask Chris Ballard. Biggest belief in how you build a roster. Biggest belief in how you win in the NFL. Got to win the
trenches. Yep.
Got to be good up front. Offensive line play. Look at how much they've invested in their O-line. And then you look at Matt Eberflus, and you ask him, what's the number one thing you're trying to do on the defensive side of the ball? Not allow the big play. And those two areas, each of your biggest strengths or your biggest, here we go, we're all, the Bowen family works hard, like whatever this, big kind of core belief that you have here. Holy shit. I mean, that got just absolutely roasted, both of them. And so that goes back to my earlier point of like, why do you feel encouraged? Your two biggest strengths weren't there. Shouldn't they normally be there? That's encouraging. Carson and Rock, arguably your two biggest question marks, probably not in Julian Davenport division. They showed up. Is that encouraging moving forward? Or
right.
Like,
yeah.
They're not always going to show up. So you can look at it a couple of ways. I know we have a few Twitter questions on this, so I won't harp it because I've harped it for the last 8 months. The Colts' approach to the season openers, has not been good. Like, point blank, the Colts did not do much in the spring. Their players decided, we're not going to do that. And the team was like, okay, compared to some other teams around the league, the Colts didn't do a whole lot. They didn't even do offense-defense. Carson Wentz never saw the Colts' defense until training camp. Then you get to training camp. And I don't know, the physicality to me, just about average. Nothing live by any means. Nothing too crazy. Sure, you had the joint practices. You didn't play many frontline guys in the preseason. And, the definition of insanity, you continue to do this, it's going to lead to the same results over and over again. And whether it's losing a close game to the 1-15 Jags or getting your ass kicked in your own building like you did on Sunday, I'm sorry. It is no longer a coincidence that you've lost 8 straight openers. And I know it spanned multiple, GMs and head coaches and this. But I'm looking at right now Chris Ballard and Frank Reich and how they've handled off seasons. It's just been with too much of a timid approach for my liking there. We always do this, Chris. And I'm a huge believer in game flow. I'm always going to point to a stretch of the game where I feel like it turned.
Okay.
And Frank Reich and I were on the same page with this afterwards. Colts have a 3rd and 1. About 3 minutes to go in the first half on Sunday. RPO. Wentz looks like he's going to run. Then all of a sudden Seattle sells out. He kind of like shot puts it to
Pittman. Yep.
You get 10 yards, something like that. Ryan Kelly whistled for illegal man downfield. So now it's 3rd and 6. You try the 50-50 ball to Mo Alley Cox, probably more like a 30-70 ball. That was great coverage by Jordan Brooks. That falls incomplete. Seattle gets a chance late half. They're in a 2nd and 20 at their own 31 with about 50 seconds to go. You know full well what's happening there. It is, we're going to take one shot. That's it. We're going to take one shot, play the Eminem soundtrack. This is it. If we don't get it, we'll probably throw a screen on 3rd down and let the clock run, make you burn timeout, and that's it. The Colts at that point, it's 14-10. Crowd is still very much in it. Kind of back and forth game. Colts offense, it kind of sputtered just a little bit there. The Colts decided to rush 4. You rush 4, you're Julian Blackmon, you're Corey Willis. You saw the Florida State-Jacksonville State highlight from the night before. Nothing is getting behind you.
Right.
Nothing is getting behind you. And as soon as Tyler Lockett puts that foot in the ground to fake like he's going towards a little corner route towards the sideline, it was over. It was over. Rick Venturi and Matt Taylor on the radio call, and Rick Venturi just says during Matt's call, "Oh no," Oh,
Yep.
I mean,
Mm-hmm.
watching that in the press box, I think I said, "Oh shit," and I'm probably cussing too much this early in the podcast, but whatever. That was my exact phrase. I'm like, "Oh, oh my, like it's Russell Wilson." I mean,
Yeah.
you know full well there's not a better deep ball thrower in the league, right up there with Mahomes, Rodgers, whoever else you want to throw up there. And I thought that was the difference. At that point, now you're down 21-10. Now there's immense amount of pressure on your defense to get stops in the third quarter, which
They did.
and then your offense to be perfect. And when you're playing the Seattle Seahawks team that, like you said, is one of the favorites, certainly in the NFC, you just can't put yourself in that position.
When you mentioned that during Beers with Bowen, you said Wilson is one of the best deep ball throwers in the league, if not the best deep ball thrower, and it happened.
Yeah, and that was the pure bomb. But, I mean, how about the first touchdown to Lockett? You bring 7, you sell out. When you're saying you bring 7, you're saying that 7's got to get home.
Mm-hmm.
You can't leave everybody in man coverage. Now,
what a catch, though. I mean,
whoa,
Willie Mays.
Now, if I'm going to nitpick a little bit, Metcalf was kind of in and out in the first half. I would have to go back and look at that play. If he was out on that play, I would have put a corner on Lockett. So not have Kari Willis unlock it down the seam. But still, man, I mean, that's just Wilson throws it perfectly to the right side, knowing that Kari Willis kind of had more of the angle down the seam, and Lockett, Willie Mays like in making that catch there. So, measuring stick game, if you will, and first test has kind of failed, and boy, I said on the morning show this morning, you show Aaron Donald that film, he might say, "Okay, close the door, and I'm gonna get naked." I mean, he might, he might be. He might be he's going to be a happy camper watching that. So,
Oh, yeah.
You're behind the 8 ball. We know what the schedule looks like. Thought the Colts would lose. Didn't think they'd lose like that. And now how you respond. And this team has responded well in the Frank Reich era. So I think that gives you hope. But, Lord knows you don't want to start 0-2.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the AFC South's the gift that keeps on giving, but just to lose 2 home games, too.
Yeah.
That's definitely not where you want to be. But it'll be the underdog Colts against the Rams on Sunday. We'll see exactly what that spread looks like.
So we talked a lot about defense. Let's stay there just for a little bit longer in terms of what you don't like. And as most people who listen to this podcast regularly know, Kevin has what he likes, what he doesn't like. After a first loss, it's always tough because we go what Kevin didn't like. Let's stay with the defense. Anything else there you want to talk about?
I felt like there are a few too many people maybe offering too much praise to the defense afterwards. You give up 21 points in 4 possessions in the first half. And, I make this analogy a lot. It's like, you got all your golf buddies that, I shot 48 on the front, but then I shot 39 on the back. All the pressure's off. It's like there is an amount of you gave up 21 points in one half of football.
Mm-hmm.
You have put your offense in a horrific position to try and come back in this football game. And I go back to what I said in the opening, segment there. Your standard is not to give up big plays. And yet you did do that. I mean, you gave up the biggest of big plays in the first half.
Not only behind, we know that big plays is like the throw, but even the Carson run. I mean,
the Carson run. I'm glad you brought that up. 3rd and 1. Leonard, gets pushed into whatever Johnson County by a tight end. Okereke had a chance to make the tackle. No. And you need better from your linebackers. We talked about them getting dirty this year. You got to be dirtier. Anthony Walker was that. And if I'm a team right now, I'm lining up and probably running against the Colts. And I know you might say, well, look at the safety play. Well, sure. But, Chris Carson, even if you take out that 33-yard run, Chris, I'm pretty sure he was still over 4 yards a pop. Or very close to 4 yards a pop. That's too much for how this defense usually is. And I don't think we look at Chris Carson as just this, whatever, top 5, top 7. But I don't think we look at Seattle.
5.7 yards per rush.
Yeah. And again, if you take out the 33-yarder, that's what, 15 for 58. So it's just a hair under.
But you can't let that happen.
4. Yeah, no, you can't. That was a huge play there. When Seattle says 3rd and 1, we're going to run it in between the tackles, that should be a win for the Colts. You've got Stewart and Buckner in there. You've got, I think, a defensive line in general that is more kind of run-centric. And that was a huge issue. The other point I was going to make is, like, I look at Russell Wilson's stat sheet right here. Passer rating of 152.3. Russell Wilson has played 145 games in his career. It's the second highest passer rating of his career.
Really?
Dude's been in the league for a decade. And just had the second, whatever you want to call it, most efficient game of his career and going 18 of 23 for 254 and 4 touchdowns. And this is where I just disagree with all these people. Oh, no, the defense played okay, blah, 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 blah. Russell Wilson, 145 games, and just had the second best game of his career, and you're going to sit here and tell me the defense played okay? Like, once you give up 21 in the first half, it's not throwing the white towel, but hell, it's pretty much waving it. And I just can't go there. A lot of it comes back to, and I make this comparison a lot in my job, of like, you compare the Pacers and you compare the Colts. Miles Turner, whenever he faces big guys, am I expecting Joel Embiid to walk off the floor with 10 points and 8 rebounds? No. That'd be foolish. Am I expecting Russell Wilson to throw 4 picks yesterday? No. But I'm expecting, if the Colts defense wants to go from good to great, if Miles Turner wants to go from whatever you consider him, a good rim protector to an elite defender in this league, it can't be 40 and 20. It can't be 152.3 for Russell Wilson with a first-time offensive coordinator. Like, that is where, folks, we got to have a higher standard. They just gave Frank Reich and Chris Ballard extensions through 2026. You know what that means? That means that Jim Irsay thinks they're the best duo in the NFL. Like, if that is the standard that this franchise, rightfully so, has created, we're going to make sure that we hold them accountable to that standard. So in no way, shape, or form am I acting like Russell Wilson is chopped liver. But again, if you consider yourself to be a top-flight defense in this league, Russell Wilson should have a, average game. Slightly below average, I guess, if you're a really good defense. If you're truly elite, he's got, one of his 20 worst games of his career, something like that. So I just thought that was abysmal, frankly, from the defense. And I go back to the big play thing again. Leonard and Okereke, jeez. And that's 2nd and 20. I mean, dude, it's just, they rushed 4. They dropped 7.
Yep.
Plenty of them. You could drop guys 15 yards back. Like, that's just, boy. I'm really surprised the defense struggled that much. Again, because it's not like, it's beating Rocky Scene and man down a sideline. No. It was where you consider strengths. Linebacker, safety in particular. So I know they played well in the third quarter. Certainly gave their offense some chance to potentially get back in the game. But you set the tone.
Yeah.
You set the tone in the first half, and that was extremely disappointing, considering the amount of personnel that you brought back.
Yeah, I had people texting me saying, well, it looks like the offense is going to have to carry the Colts this year. And I said, do you remember the Peyton years? Right. Have we ever been that great? Other than playoffs, like, this was the standard for so many years. And,
one thing I have mentioned a lot on this podcast, but I think it's worth mentioning again, is just you played the easiest schedule in the NFL last year. And I hope I never said it. I don't think I ever called this defense elite. I was always like, good. But when you play that upper echelon, it hasn't been to the level that you need it to be. And again, in no way am I saying you need to be holding these quarterbacks to 55% and picking them off 3 times or whatever. No. I'm not unrealistic at all with those thoughts. But you got to be better. And I thought a very disappointing debut for the Colts defense.
Well, we knew going into this game, left tackle was going to be an issue. We also knew that Nelson had a back injury. I don't know if you want to speak to that, but the offensive line really didn't look to protect Carson Wentz that well.
Yeah, gosh, man, abysmal. Julian Davenport, I get it. 2 sacks, totally get that. Not sure why he's left on an island on 3rd down. Don't really understand that. Twice, both times, sacks. And just drive killers and momentum killers. I felt like one of the drives, you're kind of moving it well and boom. And Nelson, obviously banged up. Kelly, Braden Smith, boy. Braden Smith had some questionable days in training camp. I didn't think it translate to the season. It definitely translated to Sunday, for what it's worth. I haven't seen Braden Smith get his you-know-what kick like that in quite a while. I mean, he's gone up against some big-time edge rushers and performed very well.
Mm-hmm.
And Darrell Taylor, I know he was a high pick, but for not playing in the NFL last year and that being his NFL debut, I mean, what he did to him on that 4th and 2, that is...
Yeah.
I mean, that's a 5th grader to a kindergartner on the playground. I mean, that was... Oh, my word. And, Braden Smith is, a guard first, and then he's supposed to have a little power element to his game. And, gosh, I mean... I don't think Braden Smith has any children, thankfully. They didn't see that just because, how was 4th and 2 ever going to, happen? So, Frank and Carson were extremely adamant after the game that it was a lot more on communication up front.
Okay.
It was early when I woke up this morning. I think it was about 4:30 when I dialed it back up, but I'm pretty sure my eyes were working. I saw a whole lot of one-on-one and Seattle's ones whipping the Colts ones. Just one-on-one blocks. I'm sure there's a little bit of communication that, you obviously can't see totally, but it's not like I saw a bunch of free rushers or stunts that weren't picked up. Lewinsky and Smith have had that issue in the past. I didn't see that. And Jeff Saturday, we had him on the Fan Morning Show today. He definitely was like, I didn't see that. So, but at the same time, I'm not going to sit here and call Reich and Wentz liars. I feel like they said that for a reason. So I guess that's something just to note as well. But dude, there are times where I'm like, is Carson okay? He's getting pulverized.
Yes.
I mean, it was the most beat up I've seen a Colts quarterback since Jacoby in 2017. And I'm thinking back to that Jacoby 10 sack game. Remember the Jags?
Yep.
Sacked him 10 times? And you're thinking to himself, just literally get him an Uber and the whole back seat be an ice and just send him home. I mean, seriously. That's what...
I mean, yeah, there were multiple plays where you're just sitting there, and slow-mo makes it look even worse. You're like, oh, my God, they just drove him down on his throwing shoulder, or his head whipped back and hit the turf. You're like, oh, my God.
We were recording this at 12:30 on Monday, and obviously I'm not, predicting this by any means, but, if Frank Reich all of a sudden was just like, oh, Carson Wentz has got 2 broken ribs, I'd be like, yep. Yep, can find about 4 hits that might have contributed to that. So, anyone debating Carson Wentz's toughness, just foolish, because he got up.
One of the biggest hits, even in slow-mo, he immediately just extended his right hand to the offensive lineman, was like, get me up. Yep, here we go.
Please, anything. So, yeah, I just thought the offensive line, how are you built, Chris? How is this team built? It's got to be a strength. We don't look at Seattle's D-line as the 2002 Ravens. It's not like we, or Tampa's D-line right now, or the Rams D-line, or whoever else are these elite D-lines in football right now. I don't think we look at that. I'm trying to think of what else. Okay, I wasn't that mad about the 4th and 2 going forward 10 minutes ago in the game. And I know some people can disagree with me on that. Okay, you're down 11. We can do the math. You need 2 scores. Field goal, touchdown, 2-point conversion would equal 11, and boom, the game's in overtime. You're at, about the 20-yard line at that point of the game? You had 5 drives before that current series. 1 first down. 5 drives. You weren't moving the football. So you have to score a touchdown at some point. To me, that's your best chance to score a touchdown. You're at the 20. There's 10 minutes to go in the game. It's 4th and 2. You might as well go for it. You're going to have to convert a 4th down at some point. I'm fine with it there. Obviously, the play call and the execution, mind-blowing. Smith, again, I don't know what happened. If you go back and watch it, it'd be tough for Wentz to anticipate this because you certainly aren't anticipating your right tackle to get just literally thrown on his ass. But, he maybe had Pittman for a fraction of a second in the same direction as Brady Smith getting thrown on his ass. Flip side, I thought he could have dumped it to Hines. Hines maybe would have had to make a move, but you maybe had something in that left flat. But still, where I kind of disagree with Frank, and I know there were some questions about play calling, I think on the Twitter questions.
Yep.
So we'll get that there. Jonathan Taylor and Nyheim Hines, they combined to play all 76 snaps. Like, you didn't have them on the field together one time. Like, that is, to me, is just like, I think that's such a weapon. I was good with the QB sneak. Like, if you can't get a center quarterback exchange, you're not, you shouldn't be doing it. And honestly, Bobby Wagner, to show why he's in the Hall of Fame, you go back and watch that, Bobby Wagner starts slapping those Seattle tackles on the butt, saying, get inside, get inside. Jamal Adams showed why he's a stud, and he comes flying in there. Even if Wentz gets it, frankly, it gets the ball, he probably doesn't pick it up. But, at some point, you gotta be a little aggressive. And I guess that comes back to Frank, and I guess I'm getting into play calling now, but whatever. Like, you couldn't have kid gloves on Carson. I felt like you had kid gloves on Carson a little bit. How many screens did you run?
When you just signed Hines to a 3-year contract that was announced like right prior to the game. So, like you said, let's see some different setups.
And then I just would like to have seen a little bit more vertical. And I get it, the O-line wasn't terrific, but it's not like the O-line is giving up pressures, 60% of the time. Like, you had the ability to hang in there and try to test some things vertically. You had 2 14-play drives, Chris, and you combined for 3 points.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
felt a lot like last year at that point when they kicked a field goal.
It's difficult in the NFL to sustain drives to that magnitude and punch them in.
Mm-hmm.
Penalty, a drop, you get behind the chains, and you just aren't going to convert. And you look at Seattle, 4 scores, 4 touchdowns, and they're all less than 10 plays.
Yeah.
Like, there's just got to be an element of more of a chunk play. We saw the struggles in the red zone last year, 2 of 4 yesterday as well. So I know I'm probably getting way off the offensive line here, but that unit's got to be better. And Davenport, fine. I'm not going to roast the guy. He was the 3rd choice at left tackle to be starting for Eric Fisher.
Yeah.
You got what you knew you were going to get.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you guys know where the blame is. It's on Chris Ballard and just the ineptness of not drafting any sort of tackle over the past few years to groom for the position that you're in right now. So, yeah, Eric Fisher, we'll see. 3 practices last week. Is 3 more enough this week? That should help them.
It's only week 1. We got 17 weeks. Let's not jump off the deep end just yet. And you mentioned kid gloves with Carson Wentz, but actually fairly good game considering the lack of practices that he had with this Colts offense.
Yeah, I thought he'd have more struggles than he did. I made that very clear. I thought the lack of practices would lead to him having a little bit more inconsistency. Now, some might argue, well, maybe some of that communication issue that Frank and him were talking about was because of the lack of practice. If he practices more, do him and Ryan Kelly get that quarterback exchange? It looked like from the replay, all on Wentz, it looked like Kelly, stuck it where he needed it to. Boy, that sounded great. And Carson Wentz got hit, how many, was it 10? 3 sacks?
3 sacks.
7 hits? 10 times.
Mm-hmm.
I think Jim Aiello, shout out Jim Aiello, that star is really going to miss him. I think he's an unbelievable
Yeah, congrats to him.
beat writer, but certainly as a father of a young kid, know full well family help is critical. I think Wentz got hit more than 10 times at once last year. I mean, holy hell, is that not the most damning stat in the world? Like, don't compare him to Rivers hits. Rivers getting the ball out, before you can breathe.
Is that going to be natural, though, considering he does he can make plays with his legs?
Well, yeah, and something I asked Jeff Saturday today is, like, this offensive line's got to realize that they need to block. They're blocking for a different quarterback. So you have to realize.
And that's why the player downfield might have happened, you would imagine?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I do think that's part of it. And you can point to lack of practice time and just not fully realizing, Carson's gifts, and obviously you're not live on those RPOs and things like that. But, I'm giving Wentz a B- for that performance? Like, that dude was, I think what sums up his day yesterday, going back to the passer rating, 102 for Carson Wentz yesterday. I want to say that was like 13th in the league yesterday when you base all the quarterbacks. So, slightly above average. His highest passer rating since 2019, December 2019. That just sums up how bad last year was for him.
Yeah.
Yesterday, I'm sitting there giving him a B-, and he just had his highest passer rating in 13 games. It's like, whoa. Man, last year was terrible. The Colts have got to take more off his plate in the sense of, like, you've got to help him with the run game and with the offensive line. You promised that for him. He got it out. I think it was the 5th slowest I saw of any quarterback in the league. yesterday. Get used to that. Like, that's what Carson's going to be, and I don't think you are elite at wideout either to really like create that big time early separation.
Yeah.
And you do want to take some chances down the field. The stat that really worries me is just he was fourth in and these are those next gen stats that kind of take it to the next level or whatever. I'm sounding like I'm a spokesperson for him. Fourth in attended air yards, so basically how long your attempts are through the air. I mean, shit, at one point, Chris, it felt like half the attempts were screens. It's just like you gotta get a little bit more vertical, folks. Like,
and that's how it was last year too.
Right, but again, last year when you're 72% and you've got the run game to support it, you get by. When you don't have the run game to support it, and this is where I just thought the play calling, like no sense of urgency to end the first half. I didn't think the Colts did a lot of favors for Carson Wentz. So, what, he had 10 completions in a row at one point. I thought he had some nice movement plays, just kind of avoiding rushers, found Pittman over the middle on a nice play one time. Yeah, I'm not, I think you walk away relatively encouraged by what you saw with Carson Wentz. Is it the high top flight quarterback play? No, but is it quarterback play that you can win with? Yeah, it is. And obviously you want to see what you can do when you give him a run game and you give him more of an offensive line there. So, I did not expect it to be as consistent as it was for him.
He clearly has a nice relationship with Zach Pascal.
Yeah, he's just old faithful, man. Both of two great grabs. By the way, that Wentz throw, I know it was in garbage time, and if you have him on your fantasy team, you were happy. But man, that throw to Pascal on the second touchdown. Hell, the first touchdown was great too. I mean, kind of back a little bit of like his throw it to his back shoulder. Pascal makes a great adjustment to it and hauls that in. I would like to have seen one touch for Paris Campbell and 40 some snaps.
I was going to say, I was actually surprised and good for Paris. He was hit right when he caught that ball. To hold on to that football, good for him.
And going back to my earlier point, man, Wentz has 38 attempts, 15 of those for the running backs. Like, you got to get a little bit more aggressive with that. The Campbell was, I think that was a play action. Kind of got behind the second level. Beautiful throw and catch. Great catch for him to hold on to it. But I thought they treated him with two kid gloves or too much on.
Okay. Well, those were things that Kevin liked and did not like. Obviously, a lot of us, we can agree with what he's saying here. Let's jump into Twitter questions because this is where the fun happens every week. Again, if you want to listen or look at Kevin's blogs, go to 1075thefan.com. If you have streaming services, you can listen to 1075 The Fan with the app with Kevin in the morning show. This first one comes from Jeremy. Did Quiddy play today? Did Quiddy play? That's hard to say. Play today. We were at the game and didn't see him do anything.
Yeah. What do you have? I got the stat sheet in front of me. I'm guessing 3, 4 tackles.
He had 3 tackles.
He did?
Yep.
You got it.
3 tackles, 1 tackle for loss.
Yeah, 1 tackle for loss, and he recovered the fumble. Great punch, by the way, by Leonard.
And
it is pretty amazing how good he is at that.
And he was in there for what could have been a sack if Metcalf didn't go offsides.
Yeah, I'm not going there. I think Dwayne Brown knew that pretty early, and he just kind of said, I saw the play was blown dead. I know there are some people commenting about that on Twitter, and I'm not going there. Yeah, I thought it was tough sledding for him. To me, for that third down group to be really dynamic, Chris, I think you need Kamoko Turi out there. I just think he gives you more of the pure fastball. I know Turi's got these great, Pay's got these great testing numbers. I'm just not sure if it's the pure fastball. I think he sets you up with some power, and then he shows speed, and you're like, oh boy, I didn't know he had that speed. But to be fair, Chris, I mean, he went from, he went from playing, God bless him, South Grove, Riverside, and Coffin, great Indy Parks golf courses, and I know probably half of them I just named are closed, but I still love them. And then all of a sudden they go, hey, here, man, here's Wolf Run, here's Victoria National, and 5% of our listening audience will understand what I just said. But, 6 o'clock basketball in a JV game to 7:30 varsity.
Yeah.
Dwayne Brown is a really, really good tackle. If you would ask me before the game, people gave me pushback at Beers and Bone when I said the under on Quiddy Pay sacks, 6.5. I think what we threw up there. It's just tough. It's tough for rookie rushers. I mean, hell, Buckner 1 sack, and was that Buckner's only hit? I think it might have been. I don't know. I can't recall any other hits. He had one more hit. That's an all-pro playing against interior guys that you really haven't heard too much of for the Seahawks. So
Chandler Jones almost broke that in one game yesterday.
Credit Chandler Long for apologizing on Twitter. I actually respect him for that. So quiet certainly from Quiddy. I don't think the Rams O-line's too vaunted though. I can't believe Whitworth is still in the league. That dude's, I swear, they popped up his picture last night. He looks 50.
Great player. Better man off the field, but great player. Matt wants to know, do you think Phillip Rivers bailed out Frank Reich last year in terms with adjustment at the line? It felt like Carson Wentz, going to give him some slack here because it is his first game, could not adjust at the line. We may see some warts in Frank's play calling.
Matt, it's a really interesting point. Matt, send in more questions. That's pretty insightful there. I think Frank is pretty honest. Frank basically is like, all right, our quarterback's going to have a whole lot of discretion at the line of scrimmage. Then we're going to give you about a dozen plays where you got to get us in the right play.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're going to see something, you've got to make sure that you correct it or stick with it or whatever. And I know that was kind of a contentious thing in Philly. At times they felt like Carson had too much control at the line. But Frank once, Jacoby, I almost said Tolzien. Tolzien wasn't with Frank. Obviously Andrew, Phillip, those guys all had ample control at the line of scrimmage. So,
is that the former quarterback in Frank? Does he just trust those guys? You think?
That's a good question. Yeah, that's my goal. Or that's not my goal. That's not what I'm going to say. I think that's fair. And I do think part of that's just a little bit of how you got to operate in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
The headset goes off, and until you become, college football, and you look over and see. By the way, I forget what game I was watching the other night, and they look over. I think it was Washington. They flashed the sideline. Did you see this?
No.
Washington had Tiger Woods' DUI picture
on one of the 4 squares.
Yeah. They didn't have 4 squares. They only had 1. Just Tiger. Just looking horrific. I'm thinking, obviously, I'm yelling at the TV. Maddie's like, I already made Rosie cry one time during the Notre Dame game. I'm vehemently yelling that they're going to lose to Toledo, and I had to hold her for the final few minutes of the game to get her to calm down. But I'm yelling at the TV like that is inexcusable. I hope Washington loses every game the rest of the year. What do you think that means? Like, Tiger DUI picture.
Probably some. We're driving. Continue to drive.
Gosh, that's one way to put it. Yeah, I don't know if punts. We're going into jail. I don't know, jailbreak. I don't know. If anyone knows that.
That's no, I did not see that. That's tough.
Yeah, it's a tough look for Eldrick. Stanford better use that as motivation when they're playing Washington.
Oh yeah.
But anyways, Matt, yes, you can look at it as kind of bailing the play caller out. But I think at the same time, Frank, part of it is you're coaching Monday through Saturday. You're explaining to Carson, hey, these are the looks. This is how you need to look at those looks and make the adjustments there. And, that's a good question.
Loyal listener Wake Spike chimes in, hey, KB and Chris, which was the bigger problem against the Seahawks, the left tackle play or the defensive backfield?
Both.
Yeah.
I didn't get the lack of help to Davenport. I didn't get, not even chips.
Yeah.
I just, that to me was just, scratching the head big time there. But I would say defensive backfield, just because, you expect more out of your safeties. No big plays. That probably should be, branded on Matt Eberflus's forehead. Think about it. They are all we'll give up 70%. We'll give up the dink and dunk, but nothing's getting over our heads.
Yeah.
I can just see it now. Brad Bone coming out of the dugout back in the day and telling the outfield, there's nothing over your heads. You know? 2nd and 20, 50 seconds to go in the first half. That's literally, if I'm Eberflus, they got to peel me off the field to yell at Julian Blackman, Kari Willis. And by the way, Blackman and Willis, you talk about football IQ. I mean, you put them very high up there on the team with that. Yeah. Gosh.
It's tough. The day after a loss is always tough.
No, I'm not used to this.
This one comes from Ryan. I don't know if it's Ryan Bowen.
I don't think so.
Hey, it was nice to meet Ryan Bowen last week at Beers with Bowen, though. Hey, Kevin, was it just me or was the play calling on offense that seemed to be somewhat uncreative and predictable? Thought Frank and Carson Wentz getting the ball out quicker, like last year with Phillip Rivers, while creating space for his receivers and the running backs to get open in the field like we saw. Obviously, that just didn't happen. What are your thoughts? And thanks for the podcast.
You know, Reich said that he would have to rein some things in with Carson. And I just feel like when you're playing the Seattle Seahawks, it's kind of a loser mentality.
Mm-hmm.
Like I talked about earlier, no touches for Campbell in a real creative sense. Yes, he had the one catch, but no, jet sweeps or screens or anything like that. Hell, I don't remember a single wide receiver screen. I definitely remember a whole lot of running backs. I'd like to see some no two-back looks. And just so scared at the end of the first half there. I mean, you got the ball back. You got 2 timeouts.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. I thought they could have maybe dialed something up.
And look, are you going to do a whole lot in that situation? Probably not.
No.
But 37 seconds to go. Yeah, 2 timeouts left. Incomplete to Hines. I want to say the second play was a screen to Hines, and then they ran down the clock to 8 seconds to go and threw some dinker to Doyle, and then went for it on a 4th down.
Yeah, it's like,
what is going on here? That's what I was disappointed. Having said that, Ryan, I mean, when your offensive line's that bad in some big moments, like, you got no prayer. I mean, the 4th and 2, like, how do we not just walk away from that play and chalk it up to Braden Smith getting smoked? Just absolutely smoked. Sometimes that's what happens. The QB sneak. I heard Rick Venturi, and I love Rick, and, he said the Colts got too cute there. I'm like, what's cute about a QB sneak?
You know who did do a good QB sneak yesterday a couple times? Jacoby Brissett.
I tweeted it. Don't take him for granted. Miami's got New England's number.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just thought, simply, drop the snap and move on. But there you go.
Here's a question from David that I saw a lot on Twitter yesterday. In terms of Marlon Mack, he knows that you have him as the 4th running back on the depth chart right now. We couldn't create a lot of things up the middle, so why not play Marlon Mack and have him bounce to the outside instead of squeezing through smaller openings? And was the defensive line for Seattle just that good, or do we need to just shake the rust off?
I thought something to notice. Well, I thought your tight ends didn't block very well. Yeah, I saw Jack and Mo and Kylan Granson getting beat on various. So I don't want to put it all on the O-line. But I also thought, just in general, Seattle controlled the line of scrimmage. David, I know this might sound harsh, but you guys have certainly heard me talk about it for about the past month or so. I'm not putting Marlon Mack in the game. Like, I'm totally good with Jonathan Taylor and Nyheim Hines getting as much work as they did. And I put Wilkins in the game. I frankly am kind of glad that Frank was that committed to Taylor and Hines. I thought he just naturally, and a little bit of Scotty Montgomery, the running backs coach as well, I thought they'd be like, let's rotate backs in, give everybody work. I mean, Marlon Mack didn't play a snap yesterday. Not Oom.
Not one. Nope.
Not Oom. Jacob Eason, no snaps. Duh. Marlon Mack, no snaps. Bo Peep Keys, no snaps. I'm shocked that you see a corner not play a single snap. And then Chris Reed and Joey Hunt. That's weird. 5 guys don't play a single snap, all dressed.
Yeah.
Seahawks only had 1. Geno Smith. I didn't realize Geno was their backup.
I saw that. I saw him on the sideline. I was like, he's still getting that paycheck, baby.
He is, man. Good for him. He's bounced around a couple times. I feel like he's been in Seattle for a minute, though.
He has.
Yeah, Marlon bouncing to the outside. Guys, I don't know how much you saw the preseason and training camp, but I didn't see the same Marlon Mack. I just didn't see it. So I know his running style might be a little bit different, but I think there's a reason why he didn't play.
Okay. From Powers That Be, rank the biggest issues from the loss, I should say, and tell us how much of that is immediately fixable.
One thing on the previous question. I think Marlon Mack really is dressing Chris for, like, an injuries scenario. like Taylor goes down.
Just in case, yeah.
You want to keep Hines in his normal role. You plug Mack in. Okay, give it to me again.
Rank the biggest issue from the loss and tell us how immediately fixable that could be.
Well, O-line. I would feel better about the O-line, Chris, honestly, if it was more free rushers and more, like, stunts. Like, that, to me, is communication that you can kind of clean up. I mean, I just saw dudes just beating dudes.
Yeah.
God, Donald and Floyd and, whoever else on that Rams D-line. I mean...
Dunlap just bully ball.
Yeah. And then, to me, defensively, it's just kind of the same old defense. Just how many times last year did it seem like defense really struggled and then turned it around the second half and your offense played better, so you won the game. That kind of covers up the defensive issues.
Yep.
I mean, I'll say this. I think there's a massive drop from your two biggest worries to whatever's next on the list. Like, if you're going to list, Kevin, give me 5 reasons why the Colts lost the game yesterday. O-line 1, defense 1A, and then... Yeah, I don't... What an awful sound effect to me going lower on the page. I don't know what I was like. Was that like a return button on a typewriter? I don't know what that was. But that was terrible. I apologize. I don't know. Maybe the run game, but like they do have a good run defense. Seattle. And shout out to Al Woods. Didn't play football last year.
Yeah.
And that Poona Ford, he's so funny to watch. 97, 5'11", 3 whatever he is. I mean, he's running around there like. What? One of the plays of the game was that screen to Taylor in the red zone, 3rd and goal, and they throw it to him, and I'm watching the press box, I'm like, that's a touchdown.
I thought the same thing.
I think it was Hyder, 51. He just dives out of nowhere and trips up Taylor. I'm like, wow. I thought Seattle's defense could run.
Yeah.
Pete Carroll, John Schneider, they know what they're doing.
I thought the exact same thing.
Seahawks fans are still in town. Have you walked around downtown this morning?
No.
Oh my gosh, they're everywhere.
Maybe the Tuesday flight's a little cheaper.
Yeah, do you not work? I guess you work.
The atmosphere was great, though, right?
I thought, honestly, for a quarter and a half, I thought it was one of the best I've heard Lucas Oil in a long time. But, yeah. I've said this before, and I have no problem. I've never thought Lucas Oil was a raucous environment, but I thought it was really good.
Good.
And I'll be curious to see what it is. I mean, this is a great home schedule.
Yeah.
Great home schedule. You're going to see this. Obviously, a huge game with Tennessee on Halloween. You're going to get the Bucks in your building. You're going to get the Patriots in your building.
Mm-hmm.
Hell, the Texans in your building. The AFC South leading Texans. So, yeah, I thought, and great work by the NFL with the 9/11 tribute. Just awesome.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that later in the podcast.
Just, yeah. I mean, the league, isn't perfect in a lot of things. Boy, hard to argue with anything they did there.
But the way that they honor people and market, they know how to do that.
They do.
And by the way, like Kevin just said, with the home schedule, if you are in town, Georgia Street Tailgates, go to 1075thefan.com, go to the event page. We have Georgia Street Tailgates presented by Bud Light every home game for the first 6. So if you're in town, come down Georgia Street, $3 16-ounce Bud Lights, music, games, food, entertainment, all that you could want.
Bumping. Georgia Street's bumping.
Oh, and it's emceed by your guy.
Brandon King.
That's right.
Doing a great job.
All right, from Bailey, thoughts overall on the defense? Seems like we always start off slow and then pick it up in the second half. What's going on there?
Yeah, I just awful starts and then people only remember the second half. I wish I had an answer for you. I thought at times they did a decent job on the contain on Wilson, but that didn't last. I mean, he's got to the perimeter. Now you're going to see a totally different animal on Sunday. Obviously, it'll be similar offensive system. Shane Waldron came from the Sean McVay tree, but much different style of quarterback. My power went out about 8:45 last night. Stayed out for about 3 hours. Just brutal.
Oh, well, that's helpful on your biggest day of the year.
Right, exactly. I'm just like, I didn't know we had this many candles in our house. Luckily, Rosie's just a legend and just slept right through it. So I only watched about the first quarter and a half of the Rams game, but boy, from what I saw, don't feel good about my Bills Super Bowl pick. Feel decent about my Rams.
Yeah, they made Peters look pretty bad there for a second, but it is what it is. Conroy wants to know why did the Colts seemingly always run to Julian Davenport's side? This seems suicidal.
Well, I mean, let's be fair. Julian Davenport's side is also Quentin Nelson's side, so
true.
Yeah, I go back to that. I feel like the tight ends got beat. I didn't notice a ton of, run block beats over on that side, but I'll go back and take a closer look.
Damon and Craig both kind of have similar questions in regard to the defense. They want to know, in terms of the decision not to play a lot of starters in the preseason, should that be reevaluated, because there just didn't seem a lot of sync and lack of intensity. And also, I felt like last year that Phillip Rivers got the ball out way faster than Carson Wentz.
I thought one thing. No, I thought there was just and you could really tell this when you're in the building. I thought there was some pre-snap communication issues as well. Just kind of like guys late getting lined up, and Frank took a timeout that one time. Just not typically stuff that you see. But yeah, I mean, you guys know full well where I stand on this. I think it is. I think it's such a mistake of how they've operated and handling the off seasons. I really, really do. I get it. The players clearly did not want to do anything in the spring. And if you're Chris Bauer and you're Frank Reich, I think you've got to say, guys, look at these first 5 games.
Mm-hmm.
We've lost 7 straight openers. I get you don't want to do anything in the spring. When we get back on the field come Grand Park, we got to do a little bit more. We need you guys to play a little bit in the preseason. Whatever plea that you need to make. But there are a lot of teams that did do minicamp, that did do offense-defense stuff in the spring. The Colts did not. I had a teacher. I told this story on the morning show. I had a teacher at Clay Junior High named John Davis, absolute legend. And old guy. What was it? Tech, or I don't know. We were making paper airplanes or modules and all this machinery stuff and whatnot. And you have had kids that would fail test, or their bowl wouldn't look like a bowl, or I don't even know if we were making bowls. Whatever we were making, not smoking bowls, bowls to eat out of. And John Davis would just look at these kids, and he'd always have this very monotone voice, and he would just say, "What did you think would happen?" And it's like the definition of insanity. It's like you keep on doing the same thing over and over again. What did you think? Like, it's kind of how the Colts in these season openers are.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing changes. The faces change, but like they handle things in the same way. And I'm like, boy, I feel like I've asked this question every single offseason and after every single week one, and no one wants to point to how the offseason has transpired, unfolded. I'm just like, all right, 1-15 Jags, or some of these times they've just gotten blown out too of these openers.
Yeah.
I think back to that Buffalo game, all the Super Bowl hype, you're playing out there the first game of the season, and Rex Ryan just owns you. And then I didn't realize this until I looked it up. I forgot that they started 0-2 for 4 straight years in there, 2014, 15, 16, 17. Now you've split these last couple of years, but obviously if you believe Vegas, 0-2 is what you're looking at right now. I thought I saw 4.5. Is that what you saw? Rams early favorite?
Probably. I would guess that's probably up there. Quickly back to those questions real quick. Not only about Phillip Rivers getting the ball out, but Carson Wentz taking his time and taking the play clock down to about 1 or 2 seconds.
Yeah, again, is that some of the communication issues that they were talking about? Is that first time seeing a defense and you're trying to make changes and whatnot? I don't think Seattle's too exotic in what they do, but yeah, I definitely noticed that. A little bit more than I've noticed it in the past. And literally, like, I think we should probably realize, and Carson Wentz is a smart dude and knows the system for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
Phillip Rivers in the 0.1 percentile in terms of quarterbacks and mental capacity and handling that and processing it. So, sooner or later we probably have to stop comparing them to Rivers.
Yeah, congrats on him for apparently just being a great high school football coach already, man. Fowler, what are your thoughts on the Colts contracts? A lot of contracts and money coming up in terms of Naheem Hines. This contract that he just signed will be up, as well as Michael Pittman, Jonathan Taylor, Kwity Paye. What about cornerback? What do we do there?
Yeah, there was another question. I think David asked about Leonard's contract. And yeah, I mean, Leonard did not look like a $100 million linebacker yesterday. Definitely not. Roster building, I always feel like it's just kind of a big debate. And I don't know. I don't know like how damaging it's going to be, because it's not like Chris spends a whole lot of money in free agency anyways. In general, yes, your money's going to be tighter. But like on your roster right now, what corner are you paying?
Mm-hmm.
Sooner or later you're going to have to draft a corner relatively high, and that corner's going to have to work out as an outside corner. Like that's just how it's going to be. But, I just think it's expectation and standard. And with what Jim Irsay's done for Chris and Frank, and what Chris has obviously done for the Jarius Leonard and Braden Smith contracts, and now Hines, who I thought was fine yesterday. Like, there's a bar that's been raised there, and now it's time to meet them.
Let's stay there with Chris Ballard and Frank Reich with the question from Louisiana guy talking about yesterday's debacle. At what point do we start to blame Chris Ballard? The lack of cornerback depth and the pass rush, and when do we also blame the scheme and lack of adjustments? Chris Ballard and Frank Reich got extensions, and Louisiana guy personally feels like that could have waited. We always have the most cap almost every year, but we continue not to go after the free agent market. People say it's one thing. People say it's one game, but what happens if we drop to 0-5? It's just frustrating overall, and how lost and outcoached we continue to look.
Yeah, I've never been a fan of the scheme. I think I've made that clear. I felt like cornerback was a position that you could have addressed additionally, not just bringing back Xavier Rose, and obviously Chris has made some moves here lately because he doesn't love what he's got at the cornerback depth right now. So, I don't expect this team to start 0-5, and I'm not I'm not in full-on panic mode. I thought yesterday was ugly, very ugly. But I'm not in, whatever. You're drafting. Somebody called in the show today and like, yeah, they're gonna go 4-13. You draft in the top 5. Who do you want in the top 5? Like, let's not go there. Schedule's tough, but boy, if they go 4-13, then
yeah.
Jeez. Great though.
Question from Scotty, and I know we got a little bit of a pushback last week talking about it, but it is something that's going on right now in the NFL and across the nation. Hate to go back down the COVID road, but I got to ask, if Carson Wentz misses 3 games or more because of COVID, but plays well and the Colts miss the playoffs because of it, is that on Frank Reich for picking him up, and how hot will his seat be if so?
I mean, gosh, it's a very just like specific scenario that I just can't see unfolding. Sure, a little bit, but when this trade happened in February, do you think Frank Reich, first off, you can't talk to the player. Is it really going to be like, did Chris Ballard really sit here and be like, well, or, I don't know, I'm trying to think when I got vaccinated, April maybe I got vaccinated. Like, do you really think it was like, all right, well, I don't think he's going to take the vaccine? Like, was that really a conversation? Like, I don't know. I don't know if I should laugh about that, but I just can't imagine that being like a huge difference maker. So, and did we obviously think that the Delta variant was going to arise like it's risen? I mean, there's so many factors to that, Scotty, that I'm not going to go there. Simply, if Carson Wentz doesn't work out, and if you don't work out as a team, yeah, that's on Frank Reich. But I'm not going to get into the whole, Frank should have known that Carson wasn't going to take the vaccine back in early February, and the Delta variant was going to be here in the U.S. I went to a wedding in April where, whatever, it seemed like nobody was wearing a mask or cared about it. Then I went to a wedding a few weeks ago, and it was much more of a pressing topic. Predicting this is freaking possible.
Question from John. Let's say the Colts are 7-3 or 8-2 at the trade deadline and looking like a contender. Every position group is looking great except for the outside corner. Do you trade the first/second rounder that we kept from the Eagles for a disgruntled corner? And if so, are you going after a guy who's more man or zone cornerback?
No. First off, John, I don't. I'm sure you sent this in before Sunday, but no, I'm not mortgaging everything like that, Chris. I mean, that is chips squarely in the middle of the table, jumping up and down like we're the Rams. Watch this, Rams. No, and also this defense just doesn't view corner in that light. They just don't. They simply don't. And obviously, you would, what are you playing to for your defense unless there's an epiphany? It'd be more of a zone, corner than a man corner.
Mm-hmm.
So no, not happening.
Back to cornerbacks. Praying for a quick recovery for Xavier Rhodes. Until then, this is from Ben. Has our secondary depth issue reached a point where we need to acquire someone? Obviously, Chris Ballard would hate to give away more draft compensation, but with all due respect, it seems like the MMA Rocky scene, love that comment there, and undersized Kenny Moore to lock down A.J. Brown and Julio Jones twice a year just won't cut it. Just ask Tyler Lockett. I'm sure he would agree.
Oh boy. Well, is there some snark in there?
Yeah.
MMA,
MMA, just, just throwing them down.
Yeah, I mean, obviously 2 cornerback waiver claims. The starters are fine. I didn't really think Rock was an issue on Sunday for what it's worth. But man, you do have some loaded wideouts on this game.
Yeah.
You start looking at it, and it's. They have tried to acquire someone. I don't think like the big name corners are. These big name corners, like, they understand how it operates. They're gonna wait till big time. And Jeff Okudah, just whatever, tore his Achilles in Detroit. All right. I have played in that similar system. That is guaranteed playing time. Boom. When Xavier Rhodes gets back, Kenny Moore and Xavier Rhodes are on the field for every single snap. Rocky Seaton played every snap on Sunday. Like, that's what that means when you're the second corner. And then, obviously, Rock is going to be your third corner for the time being. So, there's just not playing time. Now, when you get into a fourth and fifth corner, that's where more of the questions come into play a little bit. And I still stand by it. I don't love the scheme, and certainly how they tried to execute the scheme on Sunday was an abomination.
Yeah. Quick shout out to TJ Carey. Nice play on that third down pass.
That was. Boy, Buckner was right in Wilson's face, too. Gosh, that could have been a backbreaker. If Lockett would have hit on another one.
Yeah. All right, 3 more from Jake. Worst O-line play, Colts or Notre Dame?
Oh. Jake, probably both, man. Notre Dame's O-line sucks right now. I mean, I think they've got 4 rookies playing in the NFL right now off their O-line from last year, which is obviously very commendable as a program. But you're just used to, like, they reload on the O-line. They do it every year. And
they're like Wisconsin, just keep plugging guys in every single year.
And they're down to their third stringer, and he looks like Julian Davenport. It's just, and the Avon kid, Blake Fisher, got hurt, and they did start a true freshman at left tackle, which Ronnie Stanley never did that, Zach Martin never did that. That's Michael Lynch. I mean, that's pretty rare. Yeah, Notre Dame's O-line. I mean, they could legitimately lose to Purdue, and I would have never said that 2 weeks ago.
Can you believe Purdue won by that much on the road?
Dude, I said
UConn is awful.
That's it.
Well, at least you're fighting Irish won. Tennessee Volunteers not so hot.
I saw the tweet of the year that Bishop Sycamore's best volleyball player is Manti Te'o's. I mean, how good is that?
There are certain times, the internet can suck sometimes, especially with the trolls. But then there are other times where you're like, you know what? I'm glad we have the internet. There are so many funny people out there.
3 hours. Gosh, ask my wife. I was panic mode. I'm trying to go outside to find Wi-Fi, hold my phone up to the moon.
From Jason, beyond obvious factors like general health and COVID, what details do you see being responsible for the division going the Colts' way?
Well, Jason, I this might sound snarky, but the AFC South sucks. I mean, it's the worst division in the AFC. That helps. So, yeah, I think that's a big thing. And, look at the Titans' schedule. You know where Tennessee's going on Sunday?
I don't. Who do they play?
Seattle. The Colts and the Titans play the exact same schedule minus, I want to say the Colts have the Bucks, the Titans have the Saints. So the Colts kind of lost that. But I don't know. James looked pretty good. And then in the AFC, the Colts play the Raiders and I guess the Ravens for finishing second in those respective divisions, whereas the Titans will play the Chiefs and the Titans play the Browns.
Yeah.
So, Titans got
who both looked great yesterday.
Yeah, Titans got a tough schedule. So, what details do you be responsible for the division going the Colts' way? I mean, Tennessee kind of showing some of the inconsistencies that we've seen. Usually they're like 9-7, 10-6. It's not like Tennessee's been 12-4 under Vrabel. And then, obviously, Houston and Jacksonville ended up being the teams that we think that they'll be.
Yeah. All right, let's stay there. Last question from the podcast. Last year, the AFC South went 27-37. I keep hearing that the South will be worse. The Jags will likely win one more game. And the Texans can't get much worse than a 4-win team. The Titans and the Colts will be in the hunt for the division. Will the division weaken from the top? I can see the Jags winning 4 to 5 games this year and the Texans winning about the same or even going 3-5. It seems like every year there's a team that makes a run that no one expects. Are the Jags that team? Urban Meyer brings a new wrinkle to the offense. If you were ranking the quarterbacks right now in the division, by the way, would Carson Wentz be third?
No, he wouldn't be third, no. Again, Brian, it is a bad division. There's a lot in there. I think we just talked about the AFC South. Houston, Jacksonville. That's JV ball. I'm not putting any stock into what Houston did on Sunday. Nice win, but no, I'm not putting any stock into it whatsoever. And this division will come down to the Colts and Titans. And week 3. I mean, if you look at Vegas, the Colts and Titans are going to lose this week. 2 0-2 teams going into Tennessee in week 3. But the beautiful thing about the AFC South is think back to what? A handful of years ago when the Texans were 0-3 coming into Lucas Oil Stadium. And they're yelling to fire Bill O'Brien, and lo and behold, they win, and they turn their season around. Like, it's just a division where you haven't had to win too many games to get the home field, for that first round of the playoff game. So I'm not in, if you right now told me, the Colts are, percentage or odds the Colts make the playoffs, I still think they are a favorite to make the playoffs. I do. I had them losing this game at the start of the year and bouncing back and winning this one coming up on Sunday. That might look foolish, but this team has responded well. And obviously, if you get Fisher back, if you get Rhodes back, huge. And just the fact that Wentz looked as good as he did, gotta think that wins out in the end. But
yeah.
Who knows? Maybe that was the aberration for the quarterback.
Well, that's all we have for Twitter questions. Do you want to talk again about? I mean, I know you and I are both patriotic. How was that 9/12 memorial yesterday?
Yeah, I thought it was chills. Frankly, both my brothers-in-law went to the game, and I was talking to one of them, and just said he couldn't believe how incredible and just silent the entire stadium had at that moment. It was actually kind of just a touching moment. He's got a 5-year-old, soon-to-be 5-year-old son, and watching those images on the jumbotron. I mean, obviously that kid has no idea what's going on, and that really hits home to you. And I mean, I'm a big U.S. history person, and geography and wars and all those things. I kind of get sucked into a lot of that. So I watch a lot of documentaries and whatnot on it, and it's just incredibly tragic and something that we'll never forget. Our ages being what, 6th graders, I don't know what grade you
I was 5th, yeah.
5th grade when it happened. And the NFL, I mean, the fact that I assume everyone saw it, but for those that didn't see it, basically had a woman whose father died in the World Trade Center on 9/11 sing the national anthem from the memorial. And then that followed a bunch of just how they remember 9/11 and showed the images and showed video and audio from that day, and then how 9/12, the United States started to pick up pieces and move forward. It was just really well done. I hope, I don't know if the NFL put it on their YouTube channel or what, but I hope they do.
I would think so. They
spanned across the league and showed close-ups of Dalvin Cook and Garoppolo and Carson and Russell Wilson and Kyle Shanahan and just a bunch of people and various first responders and whatnot. And we did a small tribute Friday to end the morning show, just a 20-second moment of silence to remember the 20-year anniversary. So, I thought the NFL did a great job. Luke Rhodes carried the American flag out of the tunnel for the Colts. The Army had a great tribute on Saturday, all their players carrying out American flags for their game against Western Kentucky. So, it was a really, really touching moment, and obviously great to have 63,000 in there to kind of soak that in. Yeah,
we'll always hate ending a podcast on a somber note, but it's something that we should respect, and let's hope we get a win against the Rams.
Yeah, again, our coverage throughout the week, 1075thefan.com, and then the Fan Morning Show. If you guys have any questions on where to find that podcast or anything, just DM me or tweet at me, whatever. I'll point you in the right direction there. But he's Chris Presley. I'm Kevin Bowen. Everybody have a great week, and we'll talk to you next week. See you.
This has been Kevin Bowen. Thank you for listening to another edition of Kevin's Corner. If you haven't already, subscribe on iTunes or Stitcher for the best Colts and Pacers coverage.